right, good morning, everybody. Thanks again. We're continuing our conversation from yesterday. As you know, this is a restoration quest. This is not the HRD conference. Dr. Taylor wrote to me this morning to remind me that the University of the West Indies has banned all conferences. This is not the HRD units conference. It has nothing at all to do with the Department of Sociology, Psychology, and Social Work. This is just a group of people who are committed to building organizations in Jamaica, and we're looking beyond this time of crisis to what our central mission is. We want to make organizations in Jamaica work. So this morning we have Dr. Grace Martin Hall with us. She is the Managing Director and Senior Consultant at GMH Consultants in Kingston. Dr. Martin Hall, as you know, is a versatile professional with over 25 years of increasingly responsible and diversified experience. Her areas of professional practice and focus include organizational audits, development and facilitation of customized training, design and implementation of performance management and staffing systems, strategic planning, facilitation, and distance education. As an experienced professional with well-developed skills in partnering and working with private and public sector organizations and educational institutions in identifying performance and business needs and facilitating the development and implementation of innovative solutions, Dr. Martin Hall is the prime candidate to address us today on developing the workforce through online education. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Grace Martin Hall to speak with us today.
Thank you. Morning again, everybody. This is really a time when we need to build communities. And although we are not supposed to be having a conference, the time is ripe, Olivine, because there's a lot of encouragement now about building communities while we're all on this stop order across the world.
I believe that too.
So the timing is perfect. Now, the timing is also perfect for what we're talking about this morning, because it's almost as if it fell into our laps, without us even realizing it. So we're going to take, a short time because we really can't cover everything. This is such a huge topic because of what is happening now, but I'm going to try my best to just discuss a lot of the salient points, and hopefully you will all participate and share your thoughts willingly. So let's try to go ahead. As I said, pardon me with these slides because I did them at 3 o'clock this morning, but let's see how they work. Okay, as we said, a lot has been written and has been written for many years about how important it is to use online education and multimedia in general for training in order to improve the workforce. And in doing my little research, I went back and found this article written by one of the authors that we know in the program, Caruth, who wrote the book on staffing in organizations. And as he says here, in the current evolving economic environment, developing and implementing an effective workforce through improving the skills and capabilities of employees is seen as central in improving individual and organizational performance and competitiveness. Now, given what is happening, every company is going to have to rapidly transform themselves in a way so that people can be educated and trained. And because of this now, we know that the online education is going to be very, very important in improving business capacity, increasing workforce skills, and competitiveness. So what is going to happen now is that we now have a new learning revolution. I mean, online education has been there, but it has met with a lot of resistance throughout the years. And it's almost as if this is going to be the best thing that could ever happen to online education. So what is happening now is that the internet, given our situation, has created a borderless digital platform, as they say. And now they're even talking about a newer economy known as e-learning. So it's really going to be quite a time. So when we look at workforce development programs, we know that the access and convenience that it allows students is very, very important. And it is allowing students, and I refer to employees as students too, because it's all about learning, to develop their job skills and to have mobility, what we call economic mobility. And of course, it will contribute to society. So again, all of a sudden, those who never believed in online training are now going to be advocates for it. They've been forced to. When we look at online learning, and for most of you, this is probably not new information, but it's bringing us back to reflect on it. Because when we look at online learning, we realize that it's flexible, it's able to engage the learners, and it provides great opportunities for working persons to be employees by day and students by evenings or night. So we can see what is happening now with many of us being sent home to work from home. You know, it's all about online learning, but I'll talk a little later about how unfortunate it is that we were not proactive, especially here in Jamaica. And therefore, many of us are just being thrust into this online platform right now. There's never been a shortage of online courses. If you go online and you look at the major universities and even major organizations, there's a multitude of courses that are able to provide the skills that are needed in industries today. But of course, many question whether learning online can provide the same quality experience as the traditional classroom or the in-person workshop. But you know, I think that is going away, or it has gone away, because when you look at the enrollments across the world, we have hundreds and thousands of persons enrolled in online learning. Now, it was my hope that for today's presentation, I would have been able to share some local experiences. I had chosen the NCB training school as the local example of how online training is benefiting an organization. But of course, my interviews with them were canceled because of our challenging situation. But they're a good example of what happens when an organization decides to engage their employees in online learning. The NCB Training Center has gotten to the stage with their learning that some of their courses are actually university approved courses. They have been certified by the University of Council of Jamaica for many of the courses that they offer. And I watch my own neighbor here currently who is applying to Mona School of Business, but thought that she would sort of try to pre-equip herself. So she's an NCB employee. She's an attorney, and she said, you know, I'm going to go and take one of the online courses in the training school. So she chose the course in strategic management. And I've been watching her, you know, with her work and doing her group work online from home and that sort of stuff. So we know that it has a lot of value. And if it is properly done, it has the same quality as face-to-face classroom work. In many cases, in my own experience, I have found that it is superior to classroom work because the students are able to be responsible for their learning. and it makes a big difference in the outcomes when you look at the grades. So as we look at it, the research suggests that e-learning contributes to workforce development in three distinct ways. It's providing access to education, so that in many cases and in many remote areas, we know that it has had tremendous benefits. I remember when I was doing my own learning, we were part of what was called the Commonwealth of Learning. Jamaica has access to what is known as the Commonwealth of Learning. And I still get their newsletters. And when I look at it, it's amazing to see that farmers in Africa, farmers in the Amazon, persons in the Amazon are being trained by e-learning. There's a lot of myth that a lot of things cannot be replicated on it, and that is not true. You just need to have the proper technologies. And we can replicate lab work, group work, practical applications, etc. So it's being used widely, and we also now have the mobile phones, which has also given it a whole new twist in that students are actually studying on their phone wherever they are. So we know that it overcomes a lot of problems of motivation, especially with the mobile phones now. We find that people are so eager to use their mobile phones that, you know, they will learn on the phone or on a tablet. And of course, we have to overcome, or we have overcome, the negative legacies of prior education experiences. What that's telling us is that persons who were afraid of studying before are no longer afraid of studying. And therefore, it makes it a lot easier to train the diverse workforce that we have using e-learning. A lot of things can be put on in the workplace. We can use videos, we can use other multimedias to accompany the learning management platform, or the LMS as we refer to it. Interesting enough, in doing the research, I looked at some of the companies overseas, and one that came up, you know, as being a big advocate for e-learning in the workplace was a place like General Motors, because they are global in a way, and they have been able to use a lot of the web-based tools to put their training in line with their strategic plans. And when I looked at them, the amount of money that they are saying they save also by using this method rather than the traditional classroom was phenomenal. Okay, so again, articles in places like Fortune magazine on the benefits of this have said that it takes a shorter time also to train workers using e-learning. Okay, so that therefore they're able to be productive in a faster time. So there's a lot of research now going on, and as I said, it's just a matter of having the appropriate technology and also having the proper staffing, whether it be in the university or in the workplace, to ensure that they can support this type of learning medium. So basically, it's gaining worldwide. It has gained worldwide recognition, but I think with the advent of the COVID-19, it's going to burst open a whole new world. So let us move quickly to looking at some of the major known advantages of using this approach to workforce development. And when we speak about workforce development, we're speaking about equipping persons with the necessary job skills and training to allow them to be productive members and, as we said earlier, contribute to society. So the first advantage is that it's centered on employees. It's what we call learning centric, which means that it's focused on looking at the employee or the learner itself, okay? So it concentrates on what we would call the individual gaps and skills. When we look at the second advantage, we say it's practical, so that instead of us taking what is called a one-size-fits-all approach to training, it can be task-based. You can incorporate real-world activities, and you allow persons to actually make mistakes and be able to correct them. So for instance, if you had a customer service person, you could actually put training together and teach a scenario that shows what is the right way, for instance, and the wrong way to handle customer conflict or to handle issues or whatever. So we can make it very practical based. We also know that in all the training, it includes soft skills. So I go back again to things like we put training in the workplace on stress management, conflict resolution. And by doing that, you are also helping the employees to attain a good work-life balance, because they are better equipped to handle some of the tough issues at work if you're doing this sort of training. So for instance, you can arrange for them to spend part of their lunchtime or to spend 10 minutes a day, you know, going into a program on their own computers that you have designed for the organization. And the same things happens with our students. I mean, they can access stuff anywhere, anytime. So we help them to be better persons when we also use the online platforms to do training. We say that it involves consistent evaluation. And by that, we mean that it is recommended in e-learning that you assess participants before you put them into any courses, that you assess to see what they're missing and how you can tailor maybe what you're doing so that they can get the most out of it. And then you go back and get a post-evaluation as well. So you do before they've studied, and then you go back and you look at them after they've studied. And interestingly enough, my doctoral dissertation focused on whether Jamaican students are equipped to undertake e-learning. And I looked at seven study skills that were going to be important if a Jamaican student was going to be successful at e-learning. I mean, I have it just filed away, but it's an interesting study. It's a very, very interesting study. And I had a lot of satisfaction doing it, because there were areas that I never thought of that popped out as being very essential for persons to be able to grasp and use this type of learning. So number 5 is similar to what I've said before, in that you will have to tailor the career path sometimes of persons who are going to do online learning. Okay, so what we're suggesting again is that you tailor, build out the program, and ensure that the workforce development using online training programs is successful. In other countries, many of the what we call community colleges offer specific online programs for workforce development. A lot of it may be focused on soft skills, but a lot of it is also focused on technical training. They'll get into partnerships with local industries, you know, and corporations. Now, The closest we have come to that here, but I don't think it's online training, is HEART. And what I don't understand is why HEART has not gone ahead and brought some online education into the organizations themselves, partner with them and to bring in online education so that even ancillary workers would benefit from being able to access online education. There's nothing that says that everybody can't learn to use a computer. Okay, you'd be surprised. Everybody has learned to use a mobile phone. So we need to look at that. It is consistently updated so that we recommend that you have to audit your programs regularly and ensure that whatever it is that you're teaching the workforce is up to date and that your content is still relevant, still on point, still relevant, and then make the necessary improvements, I'm sorry. We say it's real-time learning because persons are able to learn wherever they are and in their own time frame. When we speak about the types of learning, we speak about synchronous learning and asynchronous learning. Now, if I was to explain it, what we are doing today, because we've all come together at the same time, is synchronous learning. So in asynchronous learning, you would be picking this up. You would be picking up my presentation, each of you, wherever you are, at whatever time you feel like. So it could have been 5 o'clock this morning, it could have been 7 o'clock, it could be 12 o'clock tonight. You may have been in your car, you could have probably used your mobile phone. And that's the beauty of really trying to improve person skills gaps. It helps organizations to attract and, as we said, train and retain employees. People get very motivated if they feel that their organization is investing in them through further training and they can see where their careers are going. Persons take ownership for their learning and they become very, very empowered. We are able to do simulations. Now, there's an industry, for instance, that uses simulations a lot, and that is the airline industry. As you probably know, pilots and airline persons have to be recertified, and there are many positions. I look at my own daughter, for instance, who is the CEO at Tony Twaits, but is also a trained nurse practitioner, and she doesn't want to lose her overseas license. So every year she does continuing education, and she's here in Jamaica, and she has been able to maintain her license for all the many years that she has come home by going onto the e-learning platform and doing her updates, doing her simulations, etc. And then she sends in the certifications and her license is renewed. So, I mean, we need to get to a point here where we really take this thing seriously. It allows for great collaboration. Look at what we are doing now. This could very well have been a training session or an awareness session because you have different of certification. It all doesn't have to end in a degree. So it could be something new. For instance, even what has happened now, I think we've kind of missed the boat because we could have used a medium like this to train students in terms of how to use the various learning platforms, for instance, that UWI offers. Workplaces could have used it to train employees who are going to work from home, because work from home just doesn't happen like that. Work from home requires a lot of skills and a lot of discipline, and I can vouch for that because I have worked from home since 2003. Well, we've spoken already about number 12, the anytime and anywhere. We know that it is cost effective. When you think about it, you can probably even train more persons because of the fact that the technology that we now have will allow you to have maybe 38 persons participating. As I said, you can choose the asynchronous mode, which is people go on in their own time, or you can still bring classes together, you know, for a class. You can break your class into smaller groups. You can do such a lot of things. You also have a lot of tools. Okay, so as the last item says, if you have a properly set up unit in your organization, they can provide what we call a lot of curated tools. Curated tools are tools that you develop based on collecting a series of information and putting things together. Good example of that would be, for instance, like a checklist. Like if we had trained persons in this time from you how to use the online platforms, we would have had a checklist that shows students exactly what are the things that you must do in order to benefit from your online experience. And for the lecturers, what do you have to do to ensure that your students can benefit greatly from the online experience? And we have what the unit, as it says here, would provide just-in-time training, meaning if something is happening in the organization and we need to correct a problem, we can quickly put up a template, we can quickly put up some job aids that would help persons to correct it. Like, for instance, if you're working in a manufacturing environment and something is happening down in your mixing plant and people, you know, went awry with the formulas and stuff, you're quickly able to use a platform like this to correct something like that. You can bring them together in groups for retraining, and then you have the templates available for them. The same thing with our courses. So there's a lot that can be done with it, and a lot of companies in other parts of the world are using it to teach skills, develop talent, provide information, and be able to train in a more efficient manner and have all of this information available, as I said, anytime, anywhere. So 24/7. I mean, companies that have locations all over the world, you know, everybody is getting the same training based on, you know, whatever the need is. So we need to jump on that bandwagon here. So in wrapping up, so that I can leave some time for your questions, I thought I would take a look at how COVID-19 will impact, you know, in a very quick way, workforce development and training. So what has happened, and I've been reading some of the blogs and stuff, what has happened is that companies are suddenly forced to do what is called immersion and experiment with technology. And I'm sure you have seen that over the last couple of weeks. Persons who never knew anything about technology are now being forced to use it. The companies, all of a sudden, the government is sending home all these workers. I'm interested to know if they've sent them home with computers, or are they packing up all these boxes of files to take home? The technology companies have jumped into play. Zoom, which we're using, for instance, is one of those. And what a lot of them are doing now is offering free and expanded services, okay, for businesses. Locally, you have seen some persons jump into the mix, offering free lessons now for the high school students and for the prep school students. All of a sudden, I saw EduFocal has offered all the PEP courses free for anybody who wants to get on the platform. Now, you realize that what is happening there is that they're building future customers. I look at my granddaughter's prep school and they're using Google Classrooms. So you know that the businesses in spite of the downturn, a lot of businesses are going to now benefit tremendously in terms of gaining new customers based on what is happening. So the research is now showing that online education now is sort of what is known as the black swan. I don't know if you know that a black swan is a rare swan, okay? But all of a sudden, online education is now thought of as a black swan, which is the unforeseen event that changes everything. Everything that we are doing right now is hinging on technology because of COVID-19. So what has started as a short-term response to a crisis will likely become a major digital transformation of higher education, especially. So with that, I leave you with these thoughts. I know that I've given you a lot in a fast way, but let me know what your thoughts are, you know, and it's a time of reflection now for all of us. So this brings me to the end of my short presentation to you this morning.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Martin Hall. I just had a comment. You had said earlier that people wondered. Oh, you had said earlier that. You had said earlier that people wondered if having an online education was the same as having a face-to-face one. And I was thinking when you were telling us about the advantages of an online education, that with the exception of it being an anytime, anywhere, the 24/7 classroom, that all the other things could have been simulated in a face-to-face classroom. So that tells me that it basically is the same. You can do anything there. That was the thought that I had when you were going through that list.
Yes, and you know the benefit of that too is that we have to remember that people learn in different ways. Some persons are visual learners, and what we have found with this is that regardless of the level of your intelligence, online education is of benefit to you, because if you're a visual learner, we now have digital whiteboards, things like that, and we can actually draw the picture and show you so that you can make a connection between what you're hearing and what you're seeing. So the learning outcomes have been better, you know, because we're able to do a lot of replication, so that regardless of the diversity, the intellectual diversity, we're able to reach one and all.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comment or question? Rennie?
Rennie has muted her mic.
I know.
And Glenford.
Everybody.
Ashiba?
All right, I'm here.
Here.
I'm
But
here. All right.
in terms of,
Oh, you're going,
you're
Rennie?
going, Glenn?
All right.
Not
You
hearing
go
you.
for it.
Not hearing you.
Okay, so with regards to the online teaching thing, my only comment with it is that it requires more control from the student and way more discipline, because I'm now doing a postgrad over education and it's online, and I'm struggling badly. And it's not because the teaching, it's not because of the teacher or the things are
It's
not
a discipline
delivered well. It's me. I'm the problem. Discipline to remain focused in the
well,
session.
I'm not hearing you, Rennie. Not hearing you.
I'm saying the discipline to remain disciplined in the sessions and focus is an issue for me, because where I'm at, there's so much happening, as opposed to when I'm in the classroom and I have to be behaving myself in front of Dr. Martin Hall. It's different when you're behind a screen.
Yes. Well, you know, when we do the training of the students, that is one of the things that we focus on. We force you to have a plan. And by doing that, we find that you become more focused. We help you to construct a plan for your learning. And we are able to see one of the beauties of the learning LMS, as we call it, the learning management system, is that it allows the lecturer or the trainer to see exactly who goes online when, to see exactly what you are doing, and we're able to send out a message to you and say, boy, Rennie, You were required to put in 3 hours this week. You've only put in half an hour. What's happening with you? How can we help you? So that the trainer or the lecturer becomes very involved with the student on a one-on-one basis. We're supposed to have what is called classroom hours. The lecturers have to have what is called classroom hours, where they go in and look at what are their students doing, whether it's in the workplace, if it's a workplace learning video that you were given or whatever. And this is where we are supposed to grab hold of that student who is having difficulty completing assignments or putting in the required times. But you are supposed to have been given a learning plan, which says to you that you are required to put in 2 hours a week. This is what you're required to complete for the 2 hours, etc. So we know that for some persons it's hard. You get distracted. You all of a sudden decided, geez, I feel like frying an egg. So I'm going to go get up. I can do this later because it's on my own time. So I'm going to get up and go and fry an egg. After you've fried the egg and you've eaten the egg, you suddenly decided, boy, I needed to run down the road. And that will go on. And then you say, sure, I can do this later tonight. Tonight you come in and you're tired. So this is why it is so important for whoever is in charge of the program to ensure that every student has a learning plan and that they're monitoring, you're going in and seeing. Because when we set up the system, you know, we can pull off these reports that show that Rennie Brown went on Monday to Wednesday. She did 2 hours altogether, the times that you went on, and we're able to send you a message and say, hey, Rennie, what's happening? Remember, you know, you contracted to do 2 hours per week or whatever. So it comes, but I can tell you, after you immerse yourself in it, you should become excited about it, Rennie, and some of these distractions should go away.
Hopefully.
But again, it's going to be dependent on your lecturer, and I don't know how the School of Education is set up, but I know, for instance, when I was a student, because I studied online, when I was a student, my lecturer would send me a message and say, hey, Rennie, what's happening? I notice you haven't been going online. Where are your difficulties? What's happening? Let's take a look at this. Let's have a plan. And then there are things like the chat rooms, you know, and we build a community which encourages the students to encourage each other. So I'm not sure, you know, what they're doing, but there are processes that can help you really so that you stay on track.
No, it's solely class delivery.
All right. Look, we have to give Dr. Shields a few minutes, so we thank you guys. If Dr. Shields finishes early, we can continue this aspect of the conversation. But Dr. Lester Shields has been waiting. He received his PhD in Pastoral Counselling from Loyola University in Baltimore. His dissertation research was on the effects of trauma and violence across social class. And on returning home to Jamaica, he was employed at the University of the West Indies as a counselor. He has lived in some of the most violent inner city communities in Kingston and has done ambulatory counseling in those areas affected, with those persons affected by violence. His interest in the topic today, he's going to be speaking to us on workplace bullying. It started from his first day of his doctoral studies when he saw the harassment even that the university lecturers had to endure. Much work has to be done with managers and supervisors in learning how to create a safe work area, physically and emotionally for workers, is what he has to tell us today. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Lester Shields.
Hi, Dr. Shields.
Hi. I'm coming from this from mostly counseling persons who have come in for disciplinary hearing, and they, in doing some investigation, found out that they didn't realize how much they were being harassed at work and that their behaviors are as a result of that. And so I do see a lot of that in doing investigation with persons who are acting out at work, who are depressed at work, who are not showing up, who are underperforming, that when you do some investigation, they are being harassed at work, they are being treated unfairly. I do think that in Jamaica we have a sentiment that we are resilient and we can put up with anything, and that what's happening to us, what happens in the US is not happening to us. So it's a different kettle of fish altogether, and we don't take it for what it is. And also, I think too, if somebody's not performing well, we tend to blame the victim. We don't um, try to see what is the issue that is going on there. I also think that we experience a lot of trauma in Jamaica. Um, and so some of that way in which we perform at work and or we treat others is coming from that background. And I would like to posit that some of our um, high incidence of poor customer service that we see in Jamaica has to do with the way that the workers are themselves treated at the workplace. Uh, so I think there's a lot that we can come to be aware of what it is that people are workers are experiencing at work and become aware of what those are, and then we can be helpful in those regards. So as you can see, I just want to run through those quickly. That um, there are many ways in which the persons who are supervisors and managers can contribute, sometimes unknowingly, to harassing an employee. They think they are just um, they're just doing something that is good for the employee, but they don't realize that they're actually harassing and or bullying, giving them too much responsibility, constantly changing the guidelines under which they're supposed to work, giving them new deadlines, and sometimes the managers just think that they are goal oriented, and so they need to change the deadlines to get stuff done, not realizing the pressure that they're putting on persons. And it tends to be, as we see, tends to be with one or two individuals and not the whole work team that gets singled out for these things. I'm going very quickly because I know I only have a few minutes. And this PowerPoint presentation, I sent it to Olivine, so it can be shared with everybody. And then co-workers, we know these things. There in work groups, there are rumors and gossips and innuendos that are made about people, the jokes that are offensive, but the person doing it doesn't find it offensive. Always belittling the person's opinion on any matter, either saying that they are new to the job or they don't know what they're talking about or they don't have enough training or whatever. They find a way to tell people that they can't contribute till they shut them down. And then there's also the sense that persons get a feeling that they don't have any privacy because whenever they go to work, anything that they have is exposed to persons. And then whenever they're getting feedback about their work from coworkers, it can just be really harsh. There's some anger that is in there. And it's usually one person targets another person, not the whole company. And I put this here because in Jamaica we think just that these are just good reasons why we can treat people the way, there are age differences, so the older people need to go, or a person who's young that's just coming in, they don't know anything, and so because they're young, we should target them. Both males and females feel that they're a target for harassment. And if you have any kind of disability, especially with speaking, you can be targeted because you don't express yourself well. And if you don't appear the way you're supposed to appear because of your gender, that can be a reason for someone just to pick on you. And if people find out about what kind of relationship you're in, they can use it as a reason. They're all good reasons that we give why we need to just put attention on somebody or treat them the way we do, and we're not aware of that we are just mistreating people. So this is another thing where, because we think we're resilient, we don't realize what it is happening to us. So a lot of anger that one feels at work and not knowing why they're not fitting in can just be that they just don't realize that they're being harassed and taken advantage of work. they feel helpless about accomplishing things, that nothing they do is going to be work out well. They don't like the job. They don't feel secure at the job, no confidence with it. They start to develop medical and physical problems. Sorry. And one of the telltale things is anxiety about going to work. They don't want to go to work, and then the family starts to get affected. These are some of the things that people happen to people who are being harassed or bullied, and they're not even aware that it's the cause for some of the changes that's happening in their life. And like I said before, I think the way we're treating workers is affecting the way workers then treat the customers. It's as um, repercussion effect on there. So there's always a question. There's always a question of is the person trying to help the other person, or are they harassing? And I think we need to be clear in assisting others in saying, no, what's happening to you is you're being harassed or bullied, because oftentimes, like I said, people don't even realize that this is happening to them. Not only the individual, but one of the things that we can say to managers and to organizations is that when you have harassment or bullying or discrimination at work, it affects the company itself. And sometimes when a company is not doing well, the managers then take it out more on workers, but they really need to look at persons are not being treated well, and it does affect the company in there, and especially when you're seeing increased staff turnover or damaged work relationships, people are not getting along at work. These are telltale signs that we need to look at how workers are being treated. So the first thing I would say is that we have to let people know that they can have a voice. Tell them that something is happening to you. Oftentimes there is no recourse for dealing with harassment. And this is where I'm going to lead to say that we need better and stronger labor laws that demand that it's posted that there are work ethics, so people can know that they can refer to it. Otherwise, people are disenfranchised about that. So we can help to give a voice when persons tell us about what's happening at work, and to give a language to say, I feel as if you are harassing me, I feel as if you are bullying me, and we can be helpful that way. So in my work, I help the individual who's been harassed, but I'm advocating that we speak up more in the workplace about there being workplace ethics to deal with how people are treated. And just to throw out thing, the company has to have integrity. The code of conduct must be published, and it must be things that are defendable for their the codes that are there must be honest and verifiable, that these are best practices. Indiscipline must not be tolerated. And again, what tends to happen is some people are allowed to get away with things. We need to have a uniform procedure for that. And the way that people are treated, employees, it must be the fairness of it must be defendable. That is the onus has to be put on the managers to say, and the co-workers who are harassing, that what they're doing, how is that fair? How are they practicing good work ethics in there? They must be able to defend that. Questions?
Yes, Doc. Good morning. Is there a correlation between insecurity and the bully?
So what there is, and what I was saying is that one of the telltale signs of when a workers feel insecure about their position at work or keeping their job, it can be stemming from the way they were treated at work. Mm-hmm. So if the workplace is a lot more inviting and people are encouraged and their worth is being promoted, they'll be people tend to feel a lot more suited for the job and sense of security about the job.
Mm-hmm.
But what when we see that sense of insecurity, I don't know if I belong here, I don't know if I fit in, I don't know if I'll keep my job. It could be stemming from the way the poor way in which persons are treated at work. Yeah.
All right. As a HR professional, as a HR manager, you see, um, how how am I able to assist my managers to move away from being a bully to be an effective manager without using elements of bullying to get work done within the organization?
All right. So I presume you have meetings with your managers, right?
Yes.
Separate and apart from the whole thing. So what I would suggest, the screen that is up there, the workplace ethics, you try and
Mm-hmm.
fill in those. Say you want us to fill in these for your company. So what's a code of conduct? You're not going to get it done in one meeting, but you want to put it on the board that we need to have, and we need to say that this is the way that we conduct ourselves, and that people, the managers, must be able to defend their behavior as being conducive for good work. That's
Mm-hmm.
the first thing to start with. So if you were to go down this list of things in the work, with your managers, and then you fill this in with your managers, then they would feel that they are participating in developing the work ethics.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm understanding. I'm understanding. What
So
you're
what
saying
I'm
is
saying
that
is
allow them to
put it
be a part of these
right.
measures that are being put in place, and I would also add to have like frequent meeting with them to see the development process in how we're moving away from the whole bullying aspect of the culture in the organization to move forward.
So as you go through this list to develop a plan or a protocol, um, what's going to come out is that many of them will say, we're not seeing this, or I'm not aware that I'm doing this, and if you start to point out that some of the behaviors may be perceived by others as harassing, people honestly say, I didn't realize I was being like that. And so it has to
Mm-hmm.
be pointed out in a courteous way to managers that,
Okay. Yes.
the way they carry themselves can impact negatively on the worker.
Understand. Thank you very much.
Sure.
We have time for one more question because it is almost 11 o'clock. So is there anybody? Doc, I was just telling you, we're not actually seeing those slides. We're still on your first slide. Well, I am still
Oh,
on your first slide. But let us at least see that ethics slide.
I have it.
In the meantime, does anybody else have any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Alicia?
Yes. Hello, everyone. So I have some exposure on material and harassment because my practicum was on sexual harassment. So on looking on material for sexual harassment, I came across some regarding harassment in general. And one of the most distinguishing features that I picked up when I was doing the research is that it can be very subtle, it can be extremely subtle. So among some of the recommendations that were put forward was that training is necessary in order to prevent and remedy harassment in the workplace. No, I don't know if you have an answer, but I was just wondering if you have any ideas on this subtlety, where subtlety is concerned, because as you rightly said, it can be gender across job categories. It can be from the boss to the worker or amongst workers. So how, and I do believe that the procedures, all of which you said, I completely agree. But how can you guard against the subtlety that can come with it? Because as you say, a person can say, oh, I didn't know that I was being a bully, or I was harassing you, or so on. So, how can a company, especially in the case of a boss and a subordinate, how can a company work towards guarding against that type of workplace incivility?
So I think you rightly say that a lot of it is subtle. I don't think people are they go out of their way to be mean and so on. We don't realize the way in which we are being like that. We just think we have a right to. A person's, as I was saying before, a person's age or the person's gender may make us feel that they need to be treated in a particular way. And then persons who are the employee may not even realize that they're being taken advantage of or being harassed until they start to show the lack of morale or the medical issues and so one of the first things we have to do is to point out that this exists, to bring that to the fore, that these are ways in which we can be impacting on persons that is not ethical or not right. So we can start to talk about it. It does exist. As I said before, we may think that we don't have this situation in Jamaica. It's a North American thing. So we can start to talk about it here. This exists here, and these are some of the ways in which it exists.
All right, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to thank everybody now. I was telling people yesterday, I learned how to use Zoom
I'm
on
sorry, before we go, can I just ask Dr. Shields a quick question?
Okay, it's 11 o'clock, so I don't know if it's
Dr.
being
Shields,
recorded.
do you think that the workplaces or the companies are aware of the fact that bullying has legal implications under our local Jamaican law?
I'm not clear on what the law says. It doesn't have all of the terms in there. So an harassment is defined. So people can get away with certain behaviors because it's not specifically defined. But thank you for bringing that up, because one of the things that I think should be posted in companies is what the law says on this matter. And then we may have to start advocating that there are other things that happen that don't fall under the ambit of the law that needs to be added there, and not because the law doesn't specifically identify certain behaviors as being harassing. It is unethical to treat people that way, and we need to just start putting that out there.
Thank you.
Back to you, Olivine.
Yeah, well, okay. All I was saying was thank you so much for being here, everybody. As you know, I have other little duties to do. I'm trying to save this recording, and that really is the problem that I have. The one that we had yesterday took me 4 hours to save, and we have another webinar in an hour's time. We will have Henry Reed, who will be speaking about international HR. We don't teach that in our program, but of course, this has nothing to do with our program. But I think international HR would be interesting. My view is that Jamaican companies need to begin to think about going regional and going international and global. So we need to talk about that. And Corinth MacDonald will be talking about change. Corinth MacDonald is a student in the HRD unit, but she's telling us what she has been doing with her dissertation work.